Does the Bible condone rape and force a woman to marry their rapist? I'm going to prove to you that the Bible does not condone rape, and I'm going to show you exactly what the penalty is for rape in the Old Testament. It is exactly what you would expect it to be. Specifically, we're talking about Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29. It's very popular out there, especially for atheists who maybe skimmed through the Bible once or picked it up on some website, that this verse, Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29, is condoning rape and forcing a woman to marry the rapist. Okay, not at all. I'm going to explain this passage in context with the culture, and you will understand it when we're done. This is admittedly a tough passage, but once you put it into the correct cultural context, you will see this is not a case of condoning rape at all. Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29. If a man meets a virgin who is not betrothed and seizes her and lies with her, and they are found, then the man who lay with her shall give to the father of the young woman 50 shekels of silver, and she shall be his wife, because he has violated her. He may not divorce her all of his days. Now, this is a huge cultural misunderstanding. Nothing in Deuteronomy 22, verse 28 through 29 indicates a rape took place at all. It's the same situation as we see in Exodus 22, 16 through 17, which is also not rape. Rather, in context of the culture, she was taken without the consent of her father, hence seized, or taken against her father's will, not against her will. In the culture, remember, this is an ancient Hebrew tribal culture. And in that culture, there wasn't always a marriage ceremony. A man could just take a wife if she was a virgin and she didn't belong to another man. For example, she is betrothed. In that culture, if you're betrothed, that would have been the same as marriage. They just hadn't come together yet. It's not like what we think of as an engagement. So in this case, the couple had likely fallen in love with each other behind her father's back. Notice that in the context, that if they are discovered or found, showing that they were both involved together. And if you read the context of the passage, who was being wronged here? The father. Okay? Reading further into the context of the passage, the father is to be compensated because his daughter was violated without the benefit of an official marriage with her father's permission. The father, at his discretion, may permit the union to be finalized as an official marriage, but there is no guarantee she still belongs to her father in that culture. Since the man did not have the father's consent beforehand, if married, he may not divorce her and must support her no matter what she does. In this context of the culture, essentially she owns him and not the other way around, which would have been a great shame on him. He went behind her father's back and took her as his wife, okay, without her father's blessing. She can divorce him, but he cannot divorce her. If you put it think about it in the culture, in the context of that culture, her father may have given her to a better man who had more wealth or status or better reputation or something like that. But since this man went behind her father's back and just took her, he was violating a very strict cultural norm. And back in those days, people were betrothed. Okay, but in this case, the woman wasn't betrothed, so this is not an act of adultery. Okay, he could legitimately take her as his wife. Okay, in this culture, but not without her father's permission. Okay, so therefore, nothing in this passage is condoning rape nor forcing the woman to marry the man. She already went with him freely, without her father's permission. Thus the man took her from her father, not forcible rape. This crime is that he stole the woman from her father, not that he raped her, which would have invoked the death penalty. Okay? In Deuteronomy 22, 28 through 29, the Hebrew word translated as seizes is eutefasa, which means to lay hold of, to wield, or in other words, to take possession, or perhaps in this context would be translated as stealing. He stole this woman. Okay? In Deuteronomy 22:25 through 27, which is a case of rape, the Hebrew word translated to lay hold of or seizes is vehechesek, which means to grow firm or strong. In other words, to use physical force. Two completely different meanings, okay, between these two examples. And so this look at this actual case of rape and the punishment. In Deuteronomy 22:25 and 27 reads, "But if in the open country a man meets a young woman who is betrothed, and the man seizes her and lies with her, then only the man who lay with her shall die. But you shall do nothing to the young woman. She has committed no offense punishable by death. For this case is like that of a man attacking and murdering his neighbor, because he met her in the open country, and though betrothed, the young woman cried for help, and there was no one to rescue her." Now, if you look at the context, notice that in this case clearly shows that an attack, like murdering his neighbor, took place. Thus, the penalty for rape in the Old Testament Bible is death. In no case can someone take a betrothed woman. To be betrothed in that culture was, like I said before, was not the same thing as being just engaged today. A betrothed couple was essentially married, but have not come together yet. So she was already bound by a marriage covenant. Thus, if the betrothed woman was actually willing to go with the man, like in the previous case we were talking about, then she committed adultery. And in the Hebrew law of the Israel in the Old Testament, if you commit adultery, you'd be stoned to death. So this passage is saying, okay, this woman was married, yeah, but she was raped, and so the penalty for the rapist is death. And in the other case, we're looking at a woman who is an eligible woman who could be, a man could marry her. She was not a betrothed woman, and the man took her behind her father's back. But there's nothing in the passage indicating that he raped this woman. This woman freely went with him. Okay, it was kind of one of those. What we're looking at in the controversial passage that everybody seems to cite as the Bible condoning rape, Deuteronomy 22:28, 29, is really a situation that's exactly the same as Exodus 22:16 through 17. This is a forbidden or unwanted or illegitimate relationship in the family. This is sort of the ancient version of Romeo and Juliet. This is a couple who went behind their father's back, and he stole the woman away from the father. In that culture, the father owns his daughter, and so to take a woman without her father's permission, you can see clearly in the context of the passage that the first thing it says, the father is to be compensated. The bride price, 50 shekels. He took this woman. He can't just take her. He has to. He made a big mistake here, but the mistake wasn't rape. He didn't rape this woman, and so that is the misunderstanding. And whenever you're reading the Bible, it's really important to understand the culture that you're reading it from. To fail to do that will cause you to completely misunderstand the Bible. There in the Old Testament, no illegitimate sexual relationships are ever tolerated. They're always invoked the death penalty. Rape for sure. In this case, this man actually was taking this woman to be his wife. He wasn't. This wasn't just like we might see in our culture today, sort of free sex or something. It was, he seized the woman. He took the woman to be his wife, and didn't have her father's permission, and so the father was to be compensated in this passage. And in context of that culture, the father could have withheld her and said, no, you can't keep her. I didn't give you my permission. But probably in most cases, the father is going to realize, okay, here's these two kids fell in love, whatever. I'm insulted, but, I'm going to let the marriage go forward. So I hope that clears that up for you. Like I said, be careful. If you're going to read the Bible, you need to study the Bible. You need to understand the culture. If you don't, you have no idea what you are reading, and you will misread it, just like many atheists on here on YouTube do, which is unfortunate.